Hello there, boys and girls. Today you are in for a treat because we are actually reading 3 chapters. Now, they're short chapters, and that's why we combined all 3 together. The first chapter is called The Man in the White Shirt. It's chapter 16, and it is taking place at 10:24 a.m. We're back on his timeline now. Now, the last time we had the Man in the White Shirt, it was at 10:02 a.m. And now this is 10:24 a.m., so this is approximately 22 minutes past the last time that we read about him. So let's see what happens with him as we continue to read chapter 16, The Man in the White Shirt. The Man in the White Shirt, 10:24 a.m. The man in the white shirt turned a corner and saw a female police officer helping an injured man in a suit limp down the street. The police officer had lost her hat. Her pants leg was dusty and torn. The businessman was in worse shape. He had no shoes. One foot was covered in blood. He couldn't put pressure on his ankle and held onto the cop's shoulder like a crutch. The man in the white shirt angled towards them. He started to speak. At first, all that came out was a hoarse croak, and then he was choking, coughing, hacking the gritty gray dust out of his throat and lungs. The cop looked impatient. The last thing she needed was another invalid on her hands. Okay, so let's look at that word invalid. Because it's a word that we don't use all the time, let's look at our context clues to see what we think it might mean. The cop looked impatient. The last thing she needed was another invalid on her hands. So I see the word valid, and valid means something that's meaningful, and in is a prefix for not. So I'm assuming that this means like she's already working with somebody who's injured and who isn't to their full potential, okay? And now she's saying there's another invalid. So we can infer that invalid means someone who needs help, someone who is not doing well, okay? Let's go back to the next line. Finally, the coughing stopped, and he croaked out a question. Can I help? The cop threw him a look. Are you up for it? The man in the white shirt nodded and got on the other side. He and the cop linked hands and made a cradle. The injured man put his arms around their shoulders and lowered himself into their basket they had made with their arms. Then they lifted him off his feet and carried him down the street, 3 people moving as one. So I can tell that in this chapter, a way to probably describe the man in the white shirt is someone who is willing to help out others, even though he's not in the best shape either, but he's willing to be of service to people who are in need. All right, let's go to chapter 17. Chapter 17 is called Radar, and it's 11:34 a.m. Now, if you look at the other chapter, chapter 16, that took place at 10:24 a.m., and now this is going to be Alex's timeline, which is 11:34 a.m., which is approximately an hour and 10 minutes after the man in the white shirt was helping the person who was in need. So this is an hour later of the same morning taking place in New York. Chapter 17, Radar. Alex's arms were on fire, but he barely noticed. Even though the dog was nearly half his size, Alex carried him the entire way, moving so fast that Nunu sometimes had to run to keep up. The dog laid his head on Alex's shoulder, blood seeping from behind his ear and matting his fur. All right, now I need to stop and let's compare the 2 chapters. The man in the white shirt is helping somebody who is bloody and who can't stay on his feet because he's an invalid, he's injured. And here's Alex. He's picked up the dog, Rex, because he's been hurt. We know he's been hurt because the last chapter that we had read, chapter 15, was taking place. Jordan threw a beer bottle and hit the dog and hurt him, and the dog went down. So now we can tell that the dog is also hurt, and he has blood behind his ear, and his fur is all matted. So Alex is carrying him, much like the man in the white shirt is carrying somebody who is hurt from the World Trade Center collapse. All right, so let's go ahead and continue back with chapter 17. I'll pick right back up. Alex whispered to him reassuringly, "It's okay, boy, you'll be okay." Alex had passed the Happy Dog Animal Hospital a zillion times on the school bus. It was a low white building painted with Dalmatian spots and a rotating sign out front shaped like a dog bone. Alex long ago made up his mind that when he got a dog, this would be his vet. I'm sorry, boy. I'm so sorry. Is he okay, Alex? Nunu trotted anxiously behind them, holding onto the dog's paw and cooing. Good boy. Alex, is he gonna be okay? I don't know, said Alex. Who did it? Pfft, some jerks. Well, why did they hurt him? Because why? Because they're jerks. But why? I don't know, Alex replied sharply. They just are. They arrived at the vet's door just as the vet was locking up to leave. But the vet took one look at the injured dog, gave them a reassuring smile, and led them inside. Dr. Marks was quick but thorough and soon reassured Alex that Rex was going to be fine. The dog just needed some stitches to close up the cut on his head. Alex stayed right by Rex's side through the whole exam, holding him while the vet irrigated the wound and stroking his paw when the doctor injected the cut with an anesthetic. And when the doctor sewed the two flaps of skin together with needle and thread, Alex flinched but never looked away. There, good as new. Just rub this cream on the wound twice a day. Dr. Marks held out a tube of ointment. I can't. Oh, it's not hard. I'll show you. No, I mean, I don't have any money. Dr. Marks slapped the tube into Alex's hand. This one's on the house, he said as he scratched the dog's neck. Okay, let's talk about that idiom. This one's on the house. Okay? Alex said he didn't have enough money, and the doctor said, this one's on the house. So we can infer that this one's on the house means that the doctor is going to pay for it. He's not going to charge Alex, which, if you know anything about vets, that's how they make their money, is by customers paying. But this particular day, he's letting him get free help. I'm assuming that the vet knows what's going on in the town of New York, in the city of New York, and he knows that at this point, I think people are just helping people who are in need on this particular day. They're not expecting money in return. All right, let's go back to the story. All right. Dr. Mark slapped the tube into Alex's hand. This one's on the house, he said as he scratched the dog's neck. What's his name? Well, see, the thing is, you don't know your own dog's name? Alex hesitated. I found him today. He's mine. He's my birthday dog. I'm going to call him Rex. The vet took a handheld electronic scanner off the counter and waved it back and forth over the dog's back. The scanner beeped. He's got a chip. The vet checked the readout and nodded. Say hello to Radar. Radar, Alex echoed. Radar turned at the sound of his name and licked Alex's hand. He's got an address, too. The vet copied an address onto a pad, tore off the sheet, and held it out to Alex. 417 Van Orton. You know where it is? Alex shrugged. Well, that's his home. You should take him back, the doctor said. Alex felt hot and cold all at once and reached for Radar to steady himself. No way. He's mine. He belongs to someone else. Dr. Mark's voice was quiet but firm. I found him. The vet took off his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. Look, son, I don't have time to deal with this now. I've got to close up and get home to my family. He's mine. Where are your parents? Alex did not want his parents getting wind of any of this. Okay, fine, give me the address. I'll take him back. He came around the table and reached for the paper. The vet pulled it away. Where are your parents? My mom's in the hospital. Oh, is she okay? I guess she's a nurse. Oh, what about your dad? He's under the river. What? Well, that's what he always says. He drives the PATH train under the river to the World Trade Center. Oh, Lord. What? You don't know? That was the second time today he'd been asked that. Yeah, said Alex. Then he shrugged, I think. Dr. Marks glanced out at Nunu in the waiting room. He lowered his voice, turned back to Alex, and he put a hand on his shoulder. Son, a bunch of terrorists just flew 2 planes into the World Trade Center. All right. So it looks like Alex found out what happened without having to watch the TV. He found out by word of mouth, which we know would eventually happen. But I think maybe the mom might have wanted to be the one to tell him so that way he wouldn't be scared. But it looks like Alex got wind of it based on the vet that was taking care of Radar. Now we know the dog's name. All right, we're going to do one more chapter. Chapter 18 is called Questions, and the time is 12 o'clock noon. And because of this time frame, we know that this is still Alex's timeline. So let's go ahead and read chapter 18, Questions, 12 o'clock noon. Now Alex knew. That's what Jordan and his goons were talking about when they asked, "You don't know?" That's why everyone got sent home early from school. That's why the people on the bus looked worried, and why his mother was stuck at work, and why he was supposed to bring Nunu straight home, and why all his friends had been told to leave the TV off. All those weird moments that had been bugging him since second period suddenly made sense. It was like a Rubik's Cube where everything seemed like a total jumble until all the pieces slid into place at once. That was a really neat simile, wasn't it? That was a great way to describe it. All right, let's go back. For a split second, he understood. Then a flood of new questions filled his head. Who did it? Why did they do it? How could those huge towers just collapse? Did anybody die? And how many? Now that he knew, he wanted to know more. He thought of his father, driving a train straight to the World Trade Center. A new question shoved all the others aside. Would his dad be coming home? That's a good question, isn't it? We'll pick up tomorrow with chapter 19. All right, have a good day.